welcome back to my channel, Beautiful Minutia. If you're new here, my name is Tiffany and welcome to another Victober weekly reading vlog. So I have a couple of carryovers from last week. Today is Friday, October the 13th. Is it Friday the 13th? I guess it is. So I'm going to share with you what I'm currently reading and then what I hope to start this week. I'm currently still working on Nicholas Nickleby and enjoying it. Not sure how much I can say right now, just because I'm like probably a third of the way through. I would say that the more I get to know Ralph Nickleby, the less I like him, and the more I admire Kate Nickleby, and the more I'm really liking the relationship developing between Nicholas and Smike. And I think I can say all of that and that not be spoilery. I'm also still currently reading Under the Greenwood Tree. I'm reading this with my friend Joanna. Oh, I should mention, I'm reading this one with Dia and Kelly. I probably have already mentioned that in plenty of other vlogs, but I'm reading this with my friend Joanna. I'm enjoying it so far, only 3 chapters in. I was trying to finish other things last week, so I didn't get as far in this one as I would like. Since it's Friday, I would love it if I could finish this Monday-ish. Somewhere in there. That would be really nice because I have several books that I'm about to start. Those books are, first of all, China Cry by Nora Lamb. This is a story of a girl who is living in China and she becomes a Christian during the time when Christianity is illegal in China. And so she experiences persecution. I think she might try to flee as well. I'm trying to remember exactly. I read this and also watched the movie adaptation for this when I was probably Claire's age and then again through my teenage years, but haven't since. And so I'm really looking forward to picking this one up again. I'm reading it with my older sister who still owns her copy, which is the copy that I read when I was a kid. She still has it. And I just recently picked this up from a thrift store and was just thrilled to find it. And neither of us have read it in a couple of decades, so we're really excited to read it together. I'm also going to be reading a book that I did not mention in my TBR video because I forgot, and that's The 4-Story Mistake by Elizabeth Enright. In August for my Patreon, we included Claire and let her choose some books and them get voted on, and then she joined the Patreon read because August is her birthday month, so that was super fun to let her join in. And the book that won was The Saturdays, which is the first book of the Melendi Quartet. This is book number 2, and we are reading this with Christy Lewis from Dostoevsky in Space, and we're gonna have a Zoom meeting next week, me and Claire and Christy, to talk about this book. Claire just finished it. I've been waiting for her to finish it so she can pass it on to me so I can read it. I'm assuming it's going to be a pretty short read because The Saturdays was, but I'm really looking forward to getting back to this sweet family. The last book that I am going to start this week that I for sure need to finish this week also is Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. I'm probably not going to talk a ton about this book in this vlog because I am doing a Patreon reading vlog for this book because I'm taking a book that's been recommended by a patron, one a month, and reading it and then uploading the vlog for them. So in September I did Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which Christy recommended to me, and Dia has recommended that I read Something Wicked This Way Comes, which also is for my in-person book club, which they were meeting for that on October 24th. So I do need to finish that this week or the beginning of the following week since book club meeting is on Tuesday because I'm the one that leads the discussion. So I kind of need to read the book. So I'm really interested to read this one because several of the book club ladies have already read this. One of them hated it, like absolutely hated it. And another one rated it like 3.5, 4 stars and said that she was anticipating really not liking it. And so she was surprised at how much she actually did like it. So I don't know where I'm going to land on this. Dia absolutely loves this book and Dia and I align like 99.8% of the time. There are a few books that we're not on the same page with, but overall we really are. And so I think that there's a really good chance. I'm anticipating that I'm gonna love it, but we'll see. I'm a little nervous when some of the people I'm reading it with, I already know they didn't like it. So we'll see. But this is the last book that I need to start this week. So that's what I'm working on this week, and I will check in with you soon and let you know how it's going. because I did finish something and I've started some other things. But before I get into that, you may or may not have noticed that we went book shopping in the last little vlog clips. It's been a super busy week, but we stopped at Half Price Books because we had to be in a bigger city for a follow-up appointment for my husband's surgery. And so I was actually really disciplined. I only left the store with 4 books, and 2 of those were for my daughter, 2 of those were for me. So I'm going to share the 2 that I found. So I'm really excited that first of all, I found The Doctor's Sweetheart by Ellen Montgomery. This is a short story collection, and Courtney from Courtney Reads was one of my co-hosts for Ellen Montgomery this year earlier, and she read this as part of Montgomery, and so I was really excited to find this because you don't find her short story collections often at used bookstores or even not used bookstores. At least that's been the case for me. I'm not even really sure whether or not this book is still in print. Then I also found this lovely Willa Cather collection. It says it's early novels and other stories. And we have a couple of books that are in editions like this. This was initially priced, I don't even know for how much. It was in the bargain section for like $2. But there is like a thing at the beginning where I guess someone tried to sell it somewhere for $35, but I got it for $2. And the novels that are in here are The Troll Garden, Oh Pioneers, which I actually read with my Patreon earlier this year, The Song of the Lark, and My Antonia. So those 3 are the Great Plains trilogy. And then also One of Ours, which is the novel that she won a Pulitzer for. And I do own several of these, but like this is beautiful for $2, and I don't own some of them. So I'm really excited to have this. I've only so far read one of Cather's novels, and it is just like, her writing is beautiful. I just love her pastoral nature writing and her examination of the struggle of being a pioneer and an immigrant in the case of Oh Pioneers. And I just really loved it. So I'm excited that I found this for $2. Okay, so on to what I've been reading. So I have finished Under the Greenwood Tree, and overall I liked it, but I didn't love it. So I'm going to tell you what I really liked about it, and then what I didn't like is spoilery, so I'll have a section that you can skip. So what I loved about it is I love Hardy's nature writing, and I love that this is a much more light-hearted Hardy, and as far as I know, this is the first of his novels that is set, I think it's called in like Wessex, which is like an invented area that he made up, and Casterbridge is part of that. So the mayor of Casterbridge, Tessa the D'Urbervilles, I think Jude the Obscure, like a lot of his novels take place in this fictional area of England that he's created, but this was the first one as far as I know. And it has an alternate title, something about a choir. It's not listed in mine, so I'm not really sure. But yeah, so I loved that. I love the lighthearted feel. I love how it's split up into seasons. So we begin, I think, in winter, and then we go spring, summer, fall. And so we're kind of following a year in the life of these people. And I really love how Hardy writes country people. He writes their accents in and all their quirks, and they just feel like very real. And I really love that. So here's what I didn't love. I didn't love the romance, and I don't think that that's spoilery, but if you want to skip spoilers, go ahead and skip now. There's the pause, so you had time to skip. You should have skipped if you need to skip, because this is spoilery. Hashtag justice for Dick, because like, why the heck did he marry Fancy? Like, she's beautiful and he thinks she's like this angel, and she's constantly like dressing to impress other people. She's incredibly vain and self-seeking, and she's flirting with other guys so that way she feels like fulfilled and desired and wanted, because Dick's love isn't enough for her, and his love for her seems so sweet and so pure. It seems like he would move heaven and earth for her, and as soon as he's gone, it's like out of sight, out of mind. And I don't even mean gone like left permanently. I mean like not in her line of sight anymore, because there's a scene towards the end, this is where it is super spoilery, where like the vicar comes in and is like, I'm in love with you, I've been in love with you, and will you marry me? And she says yes, because he's gonna offer her all these things. He's like talking about the beautiful clothes he's gonna give her and the beautiful house she's gonna live in, and she gets to live somewhere far away and exciting and outside of this town and this country area that she's always lived in, and she's engaged to Dick. weird. And then she does write him a letter the next day to be like, oh my goodness, I was so flustered. I didn't know what to do. And I was tempted by all the worldly things you promised me. And so that's why I said yes, but I'm actually already engaged. And at that point, the vicar already knows because he's run into Dick and Dick says something to him. And it's just like, this woman is kind of like low-key awful, just like not a fan of her. And I don't like her. And then the vicar's like, well, you need to tell him and he'll forgive you. And I think he would have, because he's already forgiven her like flirtation with the other guy and stuff. This goes further, but like he deserves to know. And it ends at the end of the book of him saying like they get married and he's like, now there's nothing between us. And she's like, yes, no secrets from this day onward, inwardly smiling because she knows there's a secret she'll never tell him. And that's like literally, I think, the very last line of the book. Oh, pretty close. Pretty close. Yeah, she said, and murmured she, and thought of a secret she should never tell. That's what it is. That's literally the last line of the book. And I'm just like, and there was a lot of commentary of, this is women's nature. I'm like, come on, Hardy. Really? Do you think that this is women's nature? That they are just so vain and need to be petted and preened all the time, and that their love is so changeable and so disloyal that they can just be talked out of love with a person by what someone else can give them? Because I could never. I wouldn't be swayed if some rich person came along, was like, leave your husband. I would be like, no. Or proposed to me when I was engaged to my husband, I would be like, no, who the heck are you? Even if it was someone I knew, but she didn't know the vicar that well. And so it's just like annoying, because I feel like Hardy does not have a very high view of women in the way that he portrays them sometimes. And you see that in Jude the Obscure as well. And it seems like he doesn't have a whole lot of respect for marriage or think that it's worthwhile in many of his novels. It appears to be that way. This one, The Mayor of Casterbridge, Jude the Obscure, and even Tess of the Dubervilles. So it's just, I don't know. I love Hardy's writing though. So I'm torn on that. So I don't know, maybe I'll land 3-ish star on this, but like, I would have liked the book if it didn't have the romance, which was obviously like the point of the drama and the point of the story, but I hated that. Okay, so what am I reading now? I've started China Cry by Nora Lamb, about 60, 70, 80, somewhere in that range. Pages into this, really enjoying it so far. Don't have a whole lot to say, I guess. It starts with her as a child, and then World War II happens, the rape of Nanking happens. She's in Shanghai at the time as like an 11-year-old, and her family need to flee, and then they come back to Shanghai after the war is over, and that is when communism starts to set in and all of that kind of stuff. And so you're following a lot of the political aspects of China, but that's not the focus. The focus is actually like her relationship with the Lord and how she found Jesus and persecution that she experienced as a result of that. So it is a very heavily Christian memoir, but it delves a lot into a lot of the political things that were happening as well. So it's really not just her Christian walk or just the political. You're getting a lot of both, which, I mean, it is a memoir, so she's writing about her life, her thoughts, her feelings, so it should be balanced in that aspect where you're getting a lot of how she feels and what's going on. I love it already. I love it. I am only one chapter into the 4-story mistake, but I love the first chapter because they're leaving their home in New York and moving to the country, in the way that they talk about leaving and how sad they feel and how everything is removed from their house, and they close the door of the house for the last time, and it doesn't even feel like their house anymore. It echoes weird. It doesn't look like their home because all their stuff is gone, and the way that that feels, saying goodbye to a house, I can relate. I moved around a lot as a child, and I've moved around a lot as an adult. And every time that I leave and I shut that door for the last time, it is so bittersweet because I'm excited for what the future holds. But there's this like nostalgia, melancholy, and like mourning for something that is gone, and Elizabeth Enright is capturing that so beautifully. Last but not least, I am reading Something Wicked This Way Comes. I would love to finish this within the next couple of days, so we'll see. That's what I hope, because I have a book club meeting for this one next week. I'm enjoying it so far. I don't have a ton to say because I'm very briefly into it, but yeah, I like it so far. That's it for this update. I will poke my head in one more time at the end of the week. Hopefully I will have finished one more book to share with you, but we'll see. Hello, it is the end of the week. Normally I film my conclusion of my vlogs on Friday so I can post on Saturday. It's Saturday evening pretty much, like I think it's like 5 o'clock, and I'm just now getting a chance to sit down and film. This has been the craziest week. On Thursday we had our literature fair for our homeschool group, which was so much fun, and I am a co-organizer of that, so not only did I have to oversee, you know, Claire's project and her presentation, all that kind of stuff, but I helped make a lot of the decorations and helped with some of the organizational stuff, had to be there early to set up, had to stay late to tear down, and so that was an extremely long day because we left our house in the morning and didn't get home until like 9 o'clock at night or something like that. I called my husband because we went straight from our homeschool group to piano, straight back to the homeschool group church to set up for the literature fair, and I called him and I was like, can you bring us food? So otherwise Claire and I will not eat. So he so graciously brought us food while we were setting up, and that was really good. But it was a very, very busy day, and then Friday was busy also with some church stuff, and today, Saturday, I have been catching up on housework that has been neglected. So all that to say, it's been an extremely busy week, very full, very wonderful, very fun, but I am very tired and I didn't get as much read as I might have hoped to, but I did finish one other book, partially on audio and partially physically, and that is The 4-Story Mistake by Elizabeth Enright. Let me just tell you, this is book 2 in the Melendi Quartet, if I haven't already said that, and 2 of the 4 books we have now read, and they are just an absolute delight. Have you ever read someone that just captures the essence of childhood perfectly, like to a T, that she writes in such a way that it makes you remember that this is how you acted when you were a child and maybe you'd even forgotten, like, because that's what this book does for me, and so did The Saturdays, which is the first book. And I'm so sad that I didn't just absolutely love and find Elizabeth Enright as a child. I've only read her as an adult. The first one of her books I read a couple of years ago, and so this is my third of hers, and I just love her. She paints such vivid, beautiful pictures. You get such a sense of place in her stories. So the first book, The Saturdays, they live in New York City, and so you really get a sense of the city, but then things happen and they end up moving to the country in this book, and that's not spoilery for what happens in The Saturdays or anything like that, but they end up moving to the country, to this place that's called the 4-Story Mistake, because it was ordered to be 4 stories. That's what the person who was having the house built told the architect. But then there were miscommunications, and as it turns out, there were only 3 stories in the 4-Story Mistake. And so there's a lot of fun history behind this house that they examine. And the third child, there's 4 kids in this family, the third child is really, really struggling in the beginning with moving to a new place. They're all kind of sad to leave their home that they love so very much in New York City. But the third child, Randy, seems to be in particularly really struggling with it and feels like everyone's forgetting their old home too quickly. I really love all of the kids. In this book, I for sure love Randy the most, and I think maybe that's intentional because I think that more is centered around her. I think in The Saturdays you have different chapters that are focused on different kids and their adventures in this family, and that was the case here too, but I felt like Randy seemed like a bit more of a central character in this book than she did in The Saturdays, and I I loved it. I loved it just as much as the first book. If you're looking for something that is like heartwarming, feels nostalgic, and has a lot of really good humor in it, just captures the essence of childhood and is going to make you feel so good when you read it, please, please, please pick up the Melendi Quartet. I have not read the last 2 books yet, but I've heard some people say, I think it's the next book is Then There Were Five. I've heard a lot of people say that that is their favorite of the whole quartet, and I am so eager to get my hands on that one, and I'll be reading that one next. Well, that is the only other book that I have completed this week. I've made a decent amount of progress on Something Wicked This Becomes and Nicholas Nickleby and Trying to Cry, but I'm not really going to talk about that a whole lot because I don't really have big updates for those, so I think I'm going to end that vlog here. Thank you so much for watching this. Let me know what you have been reading, if you've read any of the books that I've been reading, what your thoughts are. They're similar, different, absolutely love to hear your thoughts. And sorry this vlog is getting to you a little later than normal. I appreciate your patience with that. You're kind of getting a little bit longer of a length of time. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like and also subscribe so you can continue to see more bookish content from me, and I will see you again next time.